If rebirth is real, why don't we remember our past lives? The Buddha's answer. Chapter 1. Why can't I remember? You sit quietly, perhaps with a cup of tea, simply thinking. A question arises from somewhere deeper. If I lived before, why don't I remember? It's not a new question. Perhaps you've seen a young child with an inexplicable wisdom or felt an uncanny familiarity meeting a stranger. The question seems sincere and logical. If rebirth and karma are real, shouldn't we remember something, some clue or imprint? Isn't this absence of memory a flaw in the system? But this very question carries an assumption, one so deeply ingrained we rarely notice it. A solid I who should remember. Like someone watching different films in a cinema, wondering why they can't recall the previous one. But what if the person watching, this I, isn't as solid as we believe? Every morning, we wake up with the same name and face, recalling yesterday's memories. Naturally, we assume we're a permanent self moving forward. So, hearing about past lives, we ask, where did my memories go? What happened to my experiences? But here comes the turning point. Buddhism teaches that this solid I doesn't exist. The Buddha didn't speak of rebirth as a soul carrying a suitcase of memories through lifetimes, nor as a traveler moving from one hotel room to another. That's the idea found in many traditions, like Hinduism, where an eternal Atman moves from life to life. But the Buddha saw something different. He found no permanent soul, no fixed self, just a continuous unfolding of causes and conditions, a stream. Here's the Buddha's profound insight into why we don't remember. Our minds clinging to the illusion of a solid self, perpetuated by ignorance, avijja, and fueled by craving, tanha, become clouded. Just as you cannot see your reflection in muddied or agitated water, a mind veiled by these defilements cannot clearly perceive the past. Thus, the lack of memory isn't a flaw in the system, but a natural consequence of the mind's current state of entanglement with this illusion. Think of a river. Is it the same today as yesterday? The water, fish, even banks change, yet we call it the same river by recognizing the pattern. Not a fixed object, but a flowing process. In this same way, you are not a fixed being, but a stream. Your cells renew, your thoughts flicker, your feelings rise and pass like clouds. Even memory, the very thing this question clings to, is not stable. Modern science confirms what the Buddha taught long ago. Every time you recall something, you reshape it. Memory is not a file. It's a living echo. So when we ask, why don't I remember? We are already lost in a false assumption, the belief that there is a permanent I who could remember it all. Buddhism calls this illusion atta, the idea of a fixed self, a habit of mind, a story we've told ourselves for so long, we forgot it was a story. And when this becomes clear, the question itself transforms. It begins to sound like, why doesn't the river remember being a cloud? To some, this sounds unsettling. If there's no solid self, then who dies? Who is reborn? But to the Buddha, this truth, called anatta, or non-self, is not terrifying. It's liberating. Right now, as you listen, Pause. Notice what's happening inside you. A thought appears, then dissolves. A feeling stirs, then fades. A sound enters, then vanishes. Where is the fixed you in all this? The Buddha taught, there is awareness, but no one behind it. There is experience, but no fixed experiencer. There is life, but no solid liver, just the flow, just the dance. That's why the question of memory misses the deeper truth. Memory belongs to the story of a self. But if the self is a construction, then memory is just another ripple, not the root. And when this sinks in, something quietly powerful happens. You stop needing to defend or prove this fragile identity. You stop asking the past for your meaning. You let go of the need to remember who you were and begin to awaken to what you are. Not a fixed self or soul, but this breath, this awareness, this moment arising and falling like a wave. And in that simple, direct seeing, the possibility of true freedom begins. Chapter 2. Forgetting doesn't mean it's not real. You might still wonder, but if I can't remember anything from a past life, how can I believe it really happened? In daily life, memory often acts like proof. We remember what we ate, so we're sure we ate. But Buddhism invites us to look deeper. Is memory really what makes something true? And more importantly, is memory really as solid as we think it is? In Buddhist psychology, memory is part of sanya, perception or mental recognition. It's one of the 5 ever-changing elements that create the illusion of a person. These elements shift constantly like wind, fire, water, and shadow. Memory isn't a hard drive. It's more like writing on a stream, forming, blurring, then vanishing. Even within one life, memory fades, distorts, or disappears. We forget names, rewrite old events, even invent memories that never happened. So if memory is this fragile even now, and the brain, the very house of memory, completely dissolves at death, then the question truly becomes, how could we expect it to remain intact across lifetimes? Death, from the Buddhist view, is not a gentle sleep. It's more like a fire that burns everything to its roots. The personal story, the me with its childhood photos and favorite colors, disappears like smoke. But this doesn't mean nothing continues. The Buddha taught that beyond memory, beyond personality, there is something deeper. Not a soul, but karmic momentum. The energy of your actions, shaped by intention, continues even when memory does not. It's like someone with amnesia. They've forgotten everything, but if they trained in piano, their fingers still move with music. If they harmed someone, the consequences still follow. Memory is gone, but the imprint remains. Karma works this way. You may forget the actions, but their echo moves forward. A life of compassion creates conditions for future peace. A life of cruelty leaves behind restlessness and pain. The actions, not the memories, shape what unfolds. In some Buddhist schools, this is described through alaya vijnana, the storehouse consciousness, more like a deep, underground river where karmic seeds sink and drift. Surface memories vanish, but these subtle seeds remain, shaping your instincts, your fears, your longings. A child afraid of water might not remember drowning, but the fear is real. Someone who picks up music effortlessly might not remember years of past practice, but the capacity is there. Rebirth is not like changing clothes. It's more like melting down metal and forging a new shape. The old form vanishes, but the substance, conditioned by karma, carries on. So when we say, "I don't remember," what we often mean is, "I want proof." But memory has never been the ultimate proof. You don't remember being in your mother's womb, but you were there. You forget most of your dreams, yet you dream every night. So then, if memory is so unreliable, why are we so attached to it? Maybe forgetting isn't a flaw. Maybe it serves a purpose. Because if you remembered every detail of every life, would you still be able to live this one? When memory is wiped clean, the self has a chance to loosen its grip. You're no longer trapped by past identities. The slate is not blank, but it is open. And so Buddhism doesn't ask you to believe blindly. It asks you to look, not at memory, but at evidence already living inside you. Your fears that make no sense. Your unexplainable talents. The places that feel like home. The people who feel familiar at first glance. These may not be proof in a scientific sense, but they whisper the same truth Buddhism has pointed to for centuries. Life is deeper, wider, and more mysterious than memory alone can hold. Chapter 3. What about people who do remember? You might ask, but some people do remember their past lives. What about them? It's a valid question. Throughout history, and even in modern times, there have been individuals, especially children, who seem to recall experiences from another life. These cases invite reflection, not quick belief, but also not quick dismissal. The most carefully studied examples often come from very young children. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist, spent decades carefully documenting cases where children described places or recognized people they'd never met in this life. So why do some children remember when most people do not? From a Buddhist psychological perspective, a child's mind is still open and malleable. Their sense of identity is not yet fixed. The filters that normally keep memories from deeper consciousness at bay have not fully formed. In certain situations, especially following a sudden or emotionally charged death, strong karmic imprints might rise to the surface before the mind fully adapts to its new life. Yet even these early memories usually fade as the child grows, as the mind focuses more on the current life. Like how children often notice things adults overlook, simply because they haven't yet learned what to filter out. In rare cases, advanced meditators have reported recalling past lives through deep concentration. In Buddhism, this is known as Pubbinivasana Satiñāna, the knowledge of previous existences, a higher capacity emerging during profound meditative states. However, and this is key, the Buddha never pointed to these memories as the goal of practice. He taught that while past life recollection may arise, it is not the path to liberation. At times, it can even become a distraction. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are also teachings about certain highly realized beings, known as tulkus, who are believed to consciously take rebirth to continue their compassionate activity. The Dalai Lama is a well-known example. In these cases, the emphasis is not so much on memory in the conventional sense, but on the continuity of intention, awareness, and deep compassion across lifetimes. Still, we must tread carefully here. Vivid images or dreams don't always reflect actual events. Memory can be influenced by imagination, desire, or even hypnosis, which generates false memories. The longing to be someone special in a past life can also reinforce the very ego Buddhism seeks to dissolve. That's why, in Buddhist teaching, the quality of a memory matters less than the wisdom that arises with it. Genuine insight into past lives, if it happens, is accompanied by deep understanding of impermanence, non-self, and the roots of suffering. Without this, even real memories can become sources of pride, attachment, or confusion. In fact, those who have recalled past lives with clarity often say the same thing. The memories did not bring peace. The true transformation came only when they turned inward, toward the mind itself, and understood the nature of craving, identity, and impermanence in the present moment. So whether one remembers or not, it doesn't determine anything about spiritual maturity. The essence of the path remains the same for everyone: to cultivate wisdom, to live with compassion, and to be free from the suffering that comes from clinging to what can never be held. That's the direction the Buddha pointed to, not the past, but the present. Chapter 4. Maybe forgetting is a gift. What if forgetting isn't a mistake in the process of rebirth, but part of its wisdom? What if, instead of being a flaw, forgetting is actually a hidden kindness woven into the fabric of life itself? Imagine remembering every single life you've lived, not just the joys, but every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss, every pain you endured, and every pain you caused others. Could your heart hold all of that? Could your mind carry the weight of 1,000 lifetimes of suffering and still get up in the morning? Most of us already struggle to forgive ourselves for just this one life. Multiply that by hundreds or thousands, and the burden would be too much. Forgetting, in this sense, isn't erasure, it's mercy. Each lifetime becomes a fresh beginning. You carry deep impressions and potentials, but surface stories, names, places, roles, are wiped clean. This gives you a chance to try again, to love again, to live more wisely, to respond, not just repeat. This is one of Buddhism's most gentle insights. Rebirth is not a punishment. It's a continuation, and more importantly, an opportunity. The Buddha illustrated this truth with a simple but powerful story. A man has been shot with a poisoned arrow. His friends try to get help, but he refuses treatment. Instead, he insists, "Before I let you treat me, I must know who shot the arrow. What caste was he from? What kind of wood was the bow made of? What poison is on the tip?" While he's asking questions, the poison spreads, and he dies. The Buddha's point was clear. If you've been wounded, don't waste time asking where the arrow came from. Remove it. Treat the wound. Focus on the healing. In the same way, we are each struck by the arrows of confusion, craving, and anger. Whether they came from past lives or from this one doesn't matter as much as how we respond now. Wanting to remember past lives can sometimes be like asking about the arrow. Interesting, maybe even impressive. But it doesn't relieve suffering. The only place real transformation can happen is in this moment. Your past karma shaped the conditions you're in now, but your present choices shape what comes next. That's the living heart of Buddhist practice. You don't need to look backward to walk forward. You just need to walk with awareness, with care, with compassion. Forgetting also protects us from building new illusions. Imagine remembering being a king, a famous artist, or a great teacher. Would you still be able to accept a quiet, humble life now? Memory can be just another form of attachment, a new identity to cling to, a new story to get trapped inside. When those stories are gone, you're left with something much more honest. Who are you now? What is your mind doing now? What are you becoming? Not based on your old roles, but based on your present actions. There is a deep kind of freedom in not knowing. When the past no longer defines you, you become available to truth in a new way. You are not limited by who you've been. Maybe this moment, this very breath, is the first time you've truly been awake. And if you wake up fully, with wisdom and compassion, maybe, just maybe, it will be the last time you need to be reborn into confusion.